ever since the Disney-Fox merger, everybody's been waiting so patiently for the X-Men and Mutants to come to the MCU. And people honestly haven't been really too patient. I remember back before the Falcon Winter Soldier, people were theorizing that Wolverine was going to show up in Omega Red, which would have been awesome, but never happened. And there honestly wasn't really that much evidence. But we know the X-Men are coming. They haven't officially announced an X-Men movie like they have the Fantastic Four, but we know they are coming somewhere down the line. But turns out the mutants are already in the MCU, and we were already introduced to a mutant in Black Widow. Yeah, of all places for a mutant to be introduced to the MCU, this is probably the last place I expected it to be, but apparently this is the film where we got our first official mutant in the MCU. Because Daniel Ricther played the character, technically, of Ursa Major in the Black Widow movie. He didn't actually transform into the giant bear, but he was in the prison scene with Red Guardian, and he was the one that called out Red Guardian for lying about, Captain America, like, oh, the timing's off, like he was in the ice and all that stuff, and then like he got his wrist broke or something like that. But this character in the comics is Ursa Major, this giant bear creature. And in a recent interview, Daniel Ricther, again, who plays the character in the film in just that very brief scene, has said that he's very honored and proud to be the first mutant in the MCU, which is kind of like, what? So I don't know if this is actually like factual or not. Like if Kevin Feige comes out and says like, yeah, he's a mutant, then all right, yeah, sure, let's go for it. But he may just be saying this because he knows that the character in the comics is a mutant, because Ursa Major is mutant in the comics, and he may just be going by that. But I mean, if we're going by that logic, then technically Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were mutants too, but we know they're not in the MCU, or at least as far as we're aware. So I mean, this is cool that he's a mutant, but at the same time, we don't know for sure if he actually is. But the character is a mutant in the comics and would make sense because, I mean, first of all, he was barely in the movie. He was barely in one scene, so they didn't really explain it or anything. But at least we have some groundwork if this does end up being true, that there have been mutants that have popped up here and there in the MCU. We just didn't know they were actually mutants. And then later on the line, when we get Professor X and all these mutant characters for the X-Men, things will be explained more clearly. So I think that's really cool. And again, who knows if Ursa Major in this movie actually was technically a mutant, or if the actor's just kind of assuming. I don't know, but I think it's really cool either way, and does definitely get me more hyped and more excited to see the X-Men and the mutants coming to the MCU in the future. But guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. What do you think about Ursa Major being the first mutant in the MCU introduced in Black Widow? So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.